So a video that I've really wanted to make for a while is Samba 4 Active Directory running on Linux and using Windows RSAT toolkit to actually manage and modify and administer the Active Directory domain, the Samba 4 Active Directory domain. It's really cool that Samba's been able to accomplish this. It's basically Active Directory without having to pay for Active Directory. And the first thing that we're going to do is figure out what version of Linux that we actually want to run in order to install Samba 4 and create an Active Directory domain from that. If you look at the Samba wiki, which I highly encourage you do, we have Red Hat, CentOS 7 and 6, Debian, Ubuntu. And a lot of people are going to notice that the Ubuntu is, it's missing 1804 LTS. So I don't know if Samba is just a little behind. It says this page was last modified on February 27th of 2018. So I'm not exactly sure when they plan on updating their installation instructions on their wiki. But if you look at the Ubuntu 1604 expiration, it's basically not going to be end of life until or end of support until 2021. Okay, so really, in my opinion, if you were to do this right now and you had 3 years, that's not too bad. Obviously, this is going to be more for testing purposes. If you are just learning how to do this for the very first time, you probably don't want to be taking this video and my instructions and putting that in a production environment anyway. This is all just for testing and to show you how it theoretically can work and how I've gotten it to work in the past. And how cool it is, and it may be something that you want to do and pursue. Now, Samba 4 is definitely enterprise ready. You can pay for enterprise support. You can run it on Red Hat Linux, which could also have enterprise support built in, or not built into that, but a service contract with them. So when I say that you're probably not going to put this in a production environment, I mean you specifically are probably not going to do this, but it's definitely ready, and it's definitely possible to do this in a large scale enterprise environment, and either supplement Active Directory from Microsoft or not even use the Microsoft Active Directory controllers and go 100% with Samba. I've actually seen that done several times, and it works pretty well. I will say that from a management perspective, if you do go with Samba 4 instead of Active Directory by Microsoft, there's going to be a little bit more overhead on the Linux side, okay? But, there's pros and cons of everything. And an example of the sort of management tasks that you may be doing with the Linux and Samba versus Active Directory would be switching from the internal DNS server over to bind. Okay, if you do the initial setup with bind, you'll never have to do that. But just one thing as an example would be maybe you set up Samba with the internal DNS server, and then down the road you want to change it. Well, you're going to be doing some things to make that change, and it's going to be a little difficult. So what I opted to do, and I thought really about just downloading 1804. I actually did download 1804 LTS, and I thought about basically just running these commands on 1804 just to see what would happen. But I don't really want to do that because I do want to actually have this particular video or series of videos. I don't know how long it's going to take to do this, but I do want there to be a good result at the end instead of just this giant waste of time. But maybe when we get this finished, we'll dive into 1804 and just see, what would happen if we tried to run Samba 4 on 1804 and follow these instructions that are on the Samba wiki. So we'll see. You never know. I am trying to think like, well, geez, how difficult or how different could it be going from 1604 to 1804? And the short answer to that is probably a lot. It could be a lot different. So we're going to stay on 1604 LTS for now because I do think that, it's 2018. I think it's still practical to be, considering 1604, even though some of you in the real world may be thinking, well, if I'm going to set this up on Ubuntu, I really just do want to go to 1804. All right, so we went all around the world to get back to right here. VirtualBox, I actually made a video. I tried to make a video right before this. I was running 5.2.18 and we upgraded it to 6.0.0. Well, the network driver popped up and needed approval. I said yes, and then apparently OBS does not start recapturing the screen after that for whatever reason. So anyway, I have upgraded VirtualBox to 6.0.0. If you've watched my pfSense videos, you will have seen VirtualBox and 5.2 being used there. So yes, I've gone to 6.0.0, and it's a little bit different. If you go to the changelog on Oracle's site, they say major rework of user interface with simpler and more powerful application and virtual machine setup. It is different. It looks to me though about the same. The layout changed a little bit, but all the icons and kind of like the layout of some of these menus are exactly the same, and I welcome that. I'm actually really glad that going from 5.2 to 6.0 wasn't this just massive change of everything like sometimes happens with other programs. Okay, so what we're going to do is create a new virtual machine. It's definitely not going to be Windows. This is going to be Linux. And we're just going to go pick Ubuntu 64. And we'll call this Ubuntu Samba 80. Next. We'll be a little crazy and give this like 4 gigs of RAM. Why not? Create a virtual hard disk now. Create VDI, VirtualBox disk image. We will dynamically allocate, and let's go to 20, just for, or 19. That's close enough. Create. Okay, it looks like we are ready to go, except for, all right, you'll have to forgive me. This is the first time I'm using 6.0, except for when I just updated it from 5.2, like 5 minutes ago. So this is a little okay. So what I want to do, what I'm doing now in VirtualBox is finding the Ubuntu ISO that I want to assign. So aha, choose virtual, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Attached to Okay, that's cool. All right, network. I want that bridged. And basically when we bridge that, what we're going to do is create a virtual adapter for this virtual machine, and my network, my local network, will basically think that it's just another device attached. So any IP address that this device gets will be directly accessible to this host computer that we're on right now. And let's not do that. Two processors. We'll leave all that. Remote display. That's cool. Probably in 5.2, just never noticed it before. So we don't want audio. That's just one less thing to worry about. No serial ports. Everything looks good. Okay. So if all goes well, normal start. English. Install Ubuntu server. And then let's see, English again. United States. English. Man, how many times do I have to choose your language? And here we go. So this is the Ubuntu 16.04 server install. And when you go to download Ubuntu, don't forget that there's a server version, there's a desktop version, there's a net install, I think there's a live CD version, you know, blah, 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 whatever. Just make sure you, if you're going to do the server install like I'm doing, make sure you get the server distro, because if you get the desktop one, then you're going to get the full-blown GNOME or you know, KDE, whatever desktop environment you choose. You don't want that, okay? Unless you just want to run Linux as a desktop, which is totally fine. So what we're going to do here, let's set this to Samba. And this normally takes way more thought than what I've given as far as figuring out your host names and your domain and the Active Directory domain. Let's see, full name for user. We'll just call this Mr. Test User. Yeah, that can be tested. Sure, why not? And then password, we'll do something ridiculously secure. You may configure, no, let's not encrypt the home directory. Not too worried about it on a test install here. I suppose you could install, or you could encrypt the home directory if you so desired. And we will use the entire disk and use LVM. There we go. Yes, right changes. And I don't know if this was in 5.2 or not. If it was, I just never really noticed it. But this preview here is kind of cool. That way, if you start the machine headless, you can actually just sort of take a quick glance, you know, here without necessarily having, you know, the whole window pulled up there. So that's kind of cool. I do sort of like how it has all the information just sort of pushed out right here. So at a quick glance, you can take a look at what's going on and what the settings are without having to, you know, go into settings and view them, you know, all individually. So description.
wonder if I can change that out here. I guess not. Oh, settings, description. This will be an Ubuntu 16.04 server with Samba 4 directory controller. Yay. And there you have it. Nice little notes in there. For this type of environment, probably not necessary, but if you are doing this at your workplace or you're an administrator or manager of some sort, please, please, please be nice to your coworkers, your employees, your boss, and whoever may come to replace you at some point. And be nice and label your stuff. Okay? It just helps everyone. There's nothing better than sitting down and being able to quickly read documentation, see all the descriptions, see the notes, and have everything actually filled out where there are options to fill things out and put little descriptions in. It's so nice. Okay, so we're going to skip the proxy. If I was nice, then I would actually edit some of this out, but you're gonna have to suffer through it just like I am. All right, this is real time. Okay, so we're not gonna do any automatic updates, and we are going to set this up as a Samba server, but not necessarily just a Samba file server. So I'm not really going to I am going to enable OpenSSH, that way we can SSH into it later, but I'm not going to choose anything else here. And the OpenSSH server is just so that we can have a terminal and SSH into the virtual machine without actually having to go to the console every time. So the cool thing is with SSH access is you can allow that from remote if you so desire, or via VPN. And if you get on a different machine like a laptop or whatever, and you have your server set up and it's running as a virtual machine and it's powered on, and you want to do some things but you don't necessarily want to sit at this machine, then you can just log in from a different machine via SSH. So surely you know that. I don't know why I'm telling you that, but hey, maybe someone doesn't. So I'm just randomly clicking around in here just to kill time and just to see what's changed. But you know, I don't know. They say major rework, but maybe there's something that I'm missing. I don't know. Maybe there's something that I'm missing, but bug tracker, import appliance, and it may have more to do with the import and export of these virtual machines or these appliances, and that might be really where the big differences are. But I don't really see, some of these icons may be a little bit different, but and that's fine with me. I welcome that. I really do. I'm glad that it's not this like mind-blowing change from 5.2 to 6.0 where you have everything running fine on 5.2 and then you install 6.0 and it's just like I can't find anything. I don't know where anything is. All the settings are hidden and they're changed and they're gone, and you know, because they made it better. You know, that's perfectly fine with me. It seems like an incremental change, and maybe for the better. You know, maybe a little bit easier to navigate, and possibly makes a little bit more sense. You know, which like I said, I totally welcome that. Okay, so back to this. Yes, we want to install grub, and it is installing grub. So we will continue to wait. It doesn't help speed up anything, the fact that I'm capturing on this computer as well. So that's probably part of it. And this is not necessarily a high performance machine. Installation complete. Continue. It's always fun installing Ubuntu, a clean install. Even when you've done it a million times, there's just something about it. Something about it. And here we go. And you see the preview pulling the screen occasionally. All right, so here we are. This is the Ubuntu Linux console. So we'll go ahead and minimize this, and we'll come over here and put this over here. And let's see, we've already downloaded Ubuntu. Okay, so if you go to the Samba wiki, they basically say that if you want, let's go ahead and log in to this first. Test. All right. And we want to do is it sudo pasta vd. All right, now we can actually do things as root. Don't do what I just did, okay? It's better to run the su command and do sudo and, you know, not run things as root, because if you don't type something in correctly and hit enter, a lot of times it's too late. It's already done. So anyway, we are going to go down to Ubuntu 16.04, and we're basically just going to run this command right here. And actually, before I do that, let's do apt-get update, and it's going to update all of our packages. I'm not really even sure what version of Samba 4 is going to come with Ubuntu 16.04. But anyway, so this is the distribution specific package install page. So it basically says, hey, if you're running Ubuntu 16.04, this is the command that we want you to run and all the dependencies that need to come with it in order to get Samba 4 running on Ubuntu 16.04. And you see the different versions they have. It's funny to me that it looks like it was easy in 12.04, it was easy in 14.04, and it was easy in 15.10, and then you get to 16.04, and it's like, what happened? Okay, now you need Winbind, and oh, actually, I do know what happened. Samba 4, well, I don't know if that wouldn't really have anything to do with the distribution that you're running it on. You know, if Samba 4 is including now Active Directory compatibility and the capability of being a domain controller, then I could see, okay, you need to specify Winbind and libpam Winbind, but surely on 15.10 you can run you can run Samba 4 on 15.10. Anyway, so we're gonna run this Samba Winbind. Actually, no. let's do apt-get upgrade, so we can actually have all of our package on the latest version, the latest and greatest versions. Okay, so while we're waiting on that, like I said, this is just the distribution specific package installation. So with us running 1604, we're going to follow that. Then we will go back. I think we'll go back. These are the actual, after you get Samba installed on the host, nothing is actually configured or running yet. So then you will proceed through this. Okay. So it looks easy. Hey, it's just one command, right? I wish. It's a little bit more complex than that. So what we need to talk about now is host names for the servers. I prefer, for future people, I prefer DC1, DC2, DCA, DCB, whatever you want. Labeling it DC lets me know it's a domain controller. If you call your server something based on Star Wars, I don't know what that is. I can probably refer, hopefully, I can refer to some documentation for that organization at some point and find out what that is. But, you know, NS1, NS2, I know that's a name server. All right. So you don't have to, you know, call your hosts something generic and something that everyone's just going to know right off the top of their head probably what it is, but it really does help. It's always nice. And when you get into the point where you may have 10 domain controllers, I have found it easy. DC1, DC2, DC3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and it just makes sense. With 10 different names, you know, and you just know like, oh, okay, all Star Wars names, those are domain controllers. All puppy dog pals, dogs names, those are the name servers. I mean, come on. Like, I don't know why people do that. I know it's cool and it's kind of like something that happens all the time. For some reason, I've just never been a fan. I don't like it, but all right, I'm going to stop talking about that. All right, so we've done the update, we've done the upgrade, which actually, you know, commits installation of new packages and updating things. So now we're going to finally, as root, we will run apt-get install samba winbind lib nss -winbind and libpam winbind. Yay! This operation is going to take 72.8 megs. Yes, do it. All right. So as far as the actual installation of the packages and dependencies on Ubuntu 16.04 for Samba 4, that is it right here. This right here. You run that command, you're done for this page. Now we get into the fun part. All right, so let's just read this introduction here. All right, for those that don't know, in version 4, Samba came up with this really cool thing, and they said, hey, if you're running 4.0 of Samba, you can actually create your own Active Directory domain. Excuse the dog. You can create your own Active Directory domain without actually having a Windows server. All right. So, and then it goes on to say, if you're running in a production environment, you know, run 2 or more DCs for failover reasons. You know, that makes sense. And then it says this documentation describes how to set up Samba as the first DC to build a new 80 forest. Now, you actually can install Samba 4 and try to join it to an existing forest if you so desire. You can upgrade from an NT4 domain if you so desire, which, you know, if you're running NT4, it probably in most cases it's time to get off of that. There's a whole other section, and I mean a whole other page for joining Samba to an existing Active Directory domain. All right, so Samba as an AD domain controller only supports the integrated LDAP server as the AD backend, and let's see, what else is it saying here? We really don't have to worry about this because Ubuntu does provide the MIT KDC, I believe. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the intro. Now, preparing the installation. Select a host name for your ADDC. Okay, remember I was just talking about that. Selecting a host name. Let's just use DC1. Okay, can we all agree that if I use DC1, that everyone, if this was in an enterprise environment or a production environment, that everyone would know what DC1 is? All right, DC domain controller. Okay. I've run into issues with other names. You can probably tell that I've had to deal with this before, and it's just really annoying. So use a static IP address. I wonder what IP address I did get for my DHP server. 10.0.0.124. Okay. So 10.0.0.124. And on this page, this Wikipedia page, or not Wikipedia, this wiki page on the Samba site, it's not really going to tell you on Ubuntu, this is how you set a static IP address. It is assuming that you already know how to do that. All right, so we're not going to bother with setting a static IP address right now. It doesn't matter. For my purposes, it doesn't matter. Actually, okay, we will, because I am showing you how to do this. Okay, so let's go to, oh man, it's been a long time since I've done this. I didn't see it for a second. Oh. All right, so we nano this. Okay, so this is not where I need to be editing this. It's very obvious that this is being referenced by something else. So anything I put here is probably just going to be overridden. So here's what you do. We are going to do Ubuntu 16.04 set static IP. All right. So there's the answer right there. What I just showed you is a quick Google search and how you can find the answer to just about anything. And it also is a sort of a refresher of some of the little things that you may not remember. And I highly recommend you understand how powerful Google is and how to just type in the right search string to get you the answer that you need. Sadly, I know a lot of people that instead of that quick Google search and finding this answer would text me or email me and say, hey, do you know how to set a static IP address in Ubuntu server? What? You know, you can find it out for yourself. It's probably an answer. It's, you know, 1,000,000 times or more. So anyway, you can see I'm in the, this is an old location of, you know, where this file used to be. You used to go in here. Actually, no, that's not true. I'm going to stop talking. Never mind. So the file that I really need to be editing is not nano, is Etsy network interfaces, and that's going to have auto. Okay, so see where it says DHCP there? We do not want that. We want it to say static. And I'm going to an ENP0S3. Wow, that's that's so crazy. Oh, I remember the good old days when it was EN0 and EN1, and that's pretty much all you had to deal with at the time. I believe my DHCP range is not going to hand anything out above 200. No. Let's do 60. All right. Net mask 255, 255, 255, 0. Gateway is 10.1. Okay. That should get our config file set up for a static IP address. And what is this all? What is this telling me here? It's init networking. Okay. Wow, I was close, but not really. And if we take a look, no, it did not change. Let's just see what happens. The networking restart command should have yeah, it's saying I suspect there's a bug that is causing ifconfig-a not to update unless you perform a reset. So, we'll just see about that. Eh, 10.0.0.60. Okay, cool. So, also what that means is, oops, I should be able to ping from my Windows 10 host. I should be able to ping the Linux server, which I can, so that's great. That'll come in handy for the RSAT administration kit and the SSH if I do want to do that. So good. All right, so that is how you quickly remember things that are so basic. But you know, when you jump from CentOS to Ubuntu to SUSE to Windows to Mac OS, and it's sometimes you need a little reminder of that. You know them, you're just not exactly sure where that file is, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so use a static IP address on the DC. Check. So you see that one bullet point on this whole entire page took a few minutes. Okay, so you can see how this could get a little out of hand. Disable tools such as resolve. Verify that no Samba processes are running. Okay, well, there shouldn't be any Samba processes running because we didn't start them yet, but we will. So, yeah. PSAXE Samba SMBD NMBD Winbind. Oops, I forgot to put it in quote. No, I didn't. Ooh, we have all of them running. Oh man. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and su to root. That way I don't have to keep doing sudo every single time. So kill 1113, kill 1115, kill 116, kill 128, kill 130. Oh no, so okay, so it's shutting down. 37 and 39 just to make sure. So I'll do. Where did my P? Oh, that's annoying. PSA. Oh, because I did that as a different user. Oops. Samba. And what I'm doing is basically just making sure that I actually did shut all of those things down and they did not come back, which has been known to happen. Okay, so that's fine. Verify that the etc host file on the domain controller correctly resolves the fully qualified domain name and short host name to the LAN IP address of the DC. For example, 127.0.0.1 localhost, yes, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what we need to do is it's basically saying that the host file needs to be pointing the local host name to itself, to its own IP address. So in this example, 10.99.0.1 would be the IP address for DC1 blah blah blah, and then you would just have the host here. Okay, so let me show you that. Nano etc hosts. I know some people hate Nano. I don't know why. I really like it. So as you can see, none of that is in there. We have this. We're going to leave that. I'm just going to actually add 10. Ooh. We're actually going to do Samba here instead of DC1. See, this is where, okay, if I had been thinking, I would have, when I was setting up the server, I would have done DC1, just because when you start to have failover and redundancy and the secondary controllers, or not really even secondary controllers, but just more controllers, and you're trying to point DC1 to DC2 first, and if DC2 doesn't reply, then it defaults back to DC1 itself, basically. That's where, if you have Samba or some other, just random name, it gets a little confusing. So what we'll do, instead of DC1, is we'll call this one Samba 1. So I didn't even take my own advice. So, what do I know? I don't know. Another thing too is some people do this and some people don't. I actually prefer to do it. If you have an Active Directory domain, I prefer there to be a subdomain, if you will, of ad.domain.com. And what that basically does is it puts everything that has to do with Active Directory, all the workstations, all the host names, and all the servers that are within your forest are actually in the ad.whatever. So ad.example.com. And I just find that for me that works out, it works best, so I go ahead and do that. By all means, leave it out. If you just want it to be, dc1.company.com, well, that's fine. It'll totally work. But I prefer to actually create a subdomain. So samba1.ad. I don't really want to do test. We'll do testcompany.com. Okay, and then Samba 1. All right. And I'm actually going to put that in all caps. The host name in all caps. And it's really, it's really interesting. As we get further along, you'll probably, we're going to see more of this, but no, I'm not going to call this Samba 1 because my host was set up with just Samba. All right. So, but capitalization is really important as we get down into these steps. So let's see. We've got that set up. Blah blah blah. If you previously this is basically talking about if you've had Samba installed on this host before, you're supposed to do this. Remove all the Samba databases by doing this. Blah blah blah. Starting a clean environment. Next one. All right, so we'll go ahead and save this, and let's just see if there is a KRB5 file. I don't believe that there is. Shouldn't be one. No, there's not. So let's go installing Samba. So we've already done this part right here. Okay. Install the maintain Samba version. That makes sense. If you compile on your own, then you'll always be compiling on your own. And I mean, there's really nothing wrong with that other than the fact that if you do that and you have a large setup, then you just want to make sure to try to stay away from that unless you know how to deploy packages and updates with your own server, which is possible, but they are basically recommending that you just use a maintained version, not some old 2 point whatever. And actually the release planning is right here. Let's open that in a new tab just so we can see. So it looks like 4.8 is in maintenance mode right now. All right, so oh, that doesn't look right. I don't know that it isn't. How is it in maintenance mode? Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. So don't use 4.6. All right, so let's go back here. All right, so the Samba AD provisioning process creates the AD databases and adds initial records. Is anyone bored yet? I am. If you are migrating, okay. Okay, so the use RFC 2307, we are going to include that. This paragraph is basically saying just do it. Like you have no reason not to do it and every reason to do it. And if you don't do it now and you wish you had done it later, well, it's going to be a giant pain in the rear to come back and add it. So just do it now. All right. So yeah, the command that we're going to run with this Samba tool domain provision command is going to basically include all of these things right here. Okay, so like I said, we definitely are going to use this. And it looks like there's an interactive mode, so we can just be asked these questions. One thing that I'll touch on real quick before we get too far into this is the DNS backend by default uses the internal, yeah, here it is, Samba internal DNS backend. That has some cons. So those cons, those limitations, are listed right here. If you use the internal DNS server that is tied into Samba, it will not act as a caching resolver. It cannot do recursive queries. No TSIG, no stub zones, no zone transfers, no wildcard DNS entries, and round-robin load balancing is not supported among domain controllers. So if you need any of those things, let's say you are doing this in a production environment, if you need those things, you want to not use the internal DNS right now, okay? You want to go ahead and go through all the steps and set up bind and come back to where I am right now and run it with DNS backend and then this command right here, okay? DNS backend, and I think is it bind 9? Is that what you put in? If you don't specify, it's just going to use the internal DNS server, which that's what I'm going to do because this is just a test environment. I'm going to use the internal Samba DNS. All right. So, do not use none as the DNS backend. Okay, provisioning Samba AD in active in interactive mode. All right. So here we go. We are going to run this as root, and how we know that is you can look right here and it's got the little number sign there, the hashtag, and that's how we know that basically they're running this as root. We have the hash over here because I am running as root. So samba-tool domain provision use RFC 2307, and we'll do the interactive. That way we don't have to come up with our big long command with every parameter spelled out in the command, which means there's room for error if we do that. So we're going to do the interactive mode, and we'll just answer them one at a time. Samba tool domain provision use RFC 2307 interactive realm. Okay. So realm is going to be the ad.testcompany.com. Actually, yes, ad.testcompany.com. Now, I'm going to put that in all caps. ad.testcompany.com. Okay, AB, even though that was already there. Server role is going to be DC. Okay, so anytime that there's something in the brackets here, that's going to be, if you press enter, it's going to just go ahead and put that in for you. So like with AD, I could have just hit enter without typing AD, and it would have taken that. So that means it's the default. So on server role, in brackets, I see DC. So that means if I push enter, then that's going to be put in there. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do now. This is the DC. DNS backend. Samba internal is the default, so we'll just hit enter. DNS forwarder IP address. Yeah, we're going to leave this 10.0.0.1 because that's what, if Samba doesn't know what it is, it's going to just move on to the next server, and we want that to be our in this case, this is the DNS server on our LAN. Okay, administrator password. Oh no. Okay. So this is where it gets interesting. Please remove the SMB. Oh, I guess there was already. Okay, so basically what it's saying is please remove the smb.conf file and let provision generate it. Okay, so when we did the install via apt-get on the server, it basically went ahead and generated a generic default smb.conf, and this is basically saying get rid of that because the Samba tool provisioning process is going to generate one, and we're not going to just blow it away and totally overwrite it. So what I'm going to do, instead of removing it, is I'll just move to I'll move etc samba smb.conf to /home/test. Okay, so we should be able to do this again, and the realm is going to be AD DC Samba internal 10.0.0.1. It's much happier this time. So we do see a lot of the same things we see on the wiki page, and another error. So apparently, I have a feeling okay, so I'm gonna have to delete that again. All right, so since I didn't use a strong enough password, oh, well, I'm not gonna move that one. That one's junk anyway. So rm/hc samba smb.conf. So the reason I'm removing the smb.conf again is because that process that it started actually created another file. And so if I don't delete it and I run the tool again, then it's going to complain again and say, hey, you need to remove that file. So we're just going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm not moving this one and copying it for safekeeping because it's totally junk. All right. So now I've removed it. Let's try this again. ad.testcompany.com AD DC Samba internal 10.0.0.1 for the forwarder administrator password. Let's not put password in. Apparently it doesn't like it when you just do all lowercase password as the password. So it would be nice if it told you right away, hey, don't use that. need to write that down because I'm definitely going to forget that. I just totally made something up. Okay, so we're getting a little bit further now than we did last time, and it ran successfully. Yay. Okay. So now that we've completed that, we can kind of skip down a little bit more. Look, we're about halfway down this page now, so we're getting somewhere. Provisioning some okay, so we can skip this whole section because this is talking about non-interactive mode, which we're not going to do because we have already provisioned it. And just in case anyone knows or doesn't understand, interactive means you get the prompt, you answer. You get the prompt, you put the answer in. Okay. Non-interactive means you skip all of the questions up here, and you basically specify everything in your command all at once. Okay. So you can do it this way or the way that I did it. It doesn't really matter. I prefer interactive. If I'm doing just one at a time. Obviously, if you're going to script something, then you're going to want to put this in non-interactive. Setting up the AD DNS backend. Skip this step if you provisioned the DC using the Samba internal DNS backend. Thankfully, we did. Configuring the DNS resolver. Domain members in AD use DNS to locate services. For that, they use DNS server that's able to resolve. On your domain controller, set the AD DNS domain in the domain and the IP of your DC and the name server parameter of the etc resolve CONF. For example, that and that. All right, so here we go. This will not take long. This will be easy. We nano the etc resolve.conf file, and it basically wants to change. It wants us to change the name server to itself. So this server is going to use itself ad.testcompany.com. Name server. Okay, that was easy. You can optionally create or add a reverse lookup zone. Okay. Yeah, sure. Why not? So this requires Samba tool DNS zone create your AD DNS server IP or host name. Yeah, let's use the host name. Samba 0010. Okay, so zone create Samba. Oh, that may be because some things are not working as far as the Samba services. Okay, so that would make sense. The connection's refused on port 135 because it probably is not running. Yeah, SMBD is not running. So we can come back and do that once we get everything else set up. Configuring Kerberos in an 80. Okay, so we basically copy the krb5.conf file to where it's supposed to be, and it's basically saying do not create a symbolic link to the krb5. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so we have to go find where that is, which it says maybe, let's see, ls user local samba private. No, it's not going to be there. It's going to be an Etsy Samba. Etsy Samba private. Well, it would be nice to know where it put that because I'm not sure where it is. Oh man. User local? Blue is really hard to see. I have a feeling okay, so there's where did during the provisioning Samba created a configuration file for you to copy this file. So you know what we do is we say Ubuntu Samba KRB 5.c. Here we go. Huh. Well, it has to be somewhere, and I know that there's probably some people watching this that know where it is. User. Oh, yeah, there's no Samba folder there. Alright, so maybe well, this is all very interesting. So okay. So we're gonna kind of scroll through here and see if I can figure out. Okay, maybe it's in user share. User share. No, it's not. Setup. Oh, there it is. KRB5 SE1F. Oh, that's space. Man, it's getting too late. KRB5. July 20. That was not generated just now. Yeah. It knows it's the right. I don't know what in the world. I don't know where that could be. It's not TLS. Okay, so this is the fun part when you don't know, and you're gonna just need to keep Googling and Googling and Googling, and looking around. Let's see. It's too bad. Wait a minute. And see, what's funny is I remember I'll tell you what. This is a little bit of a drastic measure, but what we can do is actually go up here. User local Samba private. I'm just not sure what. Okay, so yeah, anyway. rm smb.c1f, and then let's go run the command again. Samba realm test company com DC Samba internal. Okay, so now we have to pay attention because it's going to tell us where that file is, the krb5.conf file, hopefully. Okay, so nowhere close where I was looking. var lib samba private krb5.conf. Okay, so now we know where it is. So again, we're going to skip this. We're going to skip that. We've already done this part. And now we're going to actually copy this file over. Okay, so unbelievable. Var lib samba private. And it wants us to put it in etc krb5.conf. Well, that was easy. It's so funny how long it takes sometimes to get, you know, the one location. Oh, anyway. All right, to start the Samba service, manually enter Samba. Woo. Okay. Oh, yes. And Samba does not provide System 5 init scripts, systemd upstart, or other service configuration files. If you install Samba using use the script for service. Okay, so we'll deal with starting Samba automatically later. To list all shares provided by the domain controller, we will do smb client -l localhost install smb client. SMB client was not installed, so before we can use it, we have to install. Okay, I guess Samba they just assumed that you would already have that installed. So let's try that again. And yay, look at that. Samba 4.3. Oh boy. 4.3.11. Well, we are running Ubuntu 16.04. So the net logon and the sysvol says we're created automatically. To verify authentication, connect to the net logon share using the domain administrator account. All right, so let's do that. SMB client localhost net logon -u administrator -c. Enter the administrator password, which this is the one. Oops. I didn't type the password in right. Yay! Okay. So that's good. That means that we're progressing. To verify that your AD DNS configuration works correctly, query some DNS records. Okay. We are going to query some records. Oh, that's no good. Yay. Okay. See, you have to remember to capitalize things. Okay. The UDP paste, Kerberos, okay, so we're going to do UDP Kerberos. Oh, yeah, that's right. See? The A record of the domain controller. So this is basically if you see all these things, that means you're in good shape. Your DNS is working. And we said this was Samba 1, no, Samba dot ad.testcompany.com. Okay, samba.ad.testcompany.com has address 10.0.0.60. Okay, so moving on. Now we get to request a ticket. Yay. KInit administrator. At install. That's a lot of stuff it's going to download. Oh man. So I don't even know how long this video has gone now, but I'm sure you're all so excited at this point. While this is happening, let's go ahead and I will show you how to download the RSAT toolkit for Windows 10 so that we can actually connect to the Samba Active Directory controller. Well, let's go back. It finished. All right, so we're going to do a couple other things. All right, K administrator. User. I think that's all I had to do before. I think I installed a lot of stuff that I didn't really need because I did the wrong command, but oh well. Yay. Your password will expire in 41 days. So, I mean, as you can see, we're getting to the point now where we're just verifying everything's working, but you know, it's a fully functional, almost fully functional server 2008 domain. So let's do this plist, and there we go. All right. So that all looks good. That all looks great. We won't worry about time synchronization right now. Let's skip that. Let's just get to the point where we can blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Setting up the domain controller as a file server, bad idea. Don't do that. So now let's go download the RSAT toolkit. I have 1803. Next. It's going to download. It's 95 megs. Okay. And I actually think that at this point we could probably go ahead and join the computer, this computer, to the domain. Let's go ahead and try that. System, join domain. Connect to work or school. Connect. So if I do join this device to a local Active Directory domain, join a domain, if I do ad.testcompany.com, that domain couldn't be found. Check the domain name and try again. Oh, yeah, I don't know what that is. All right, so one thing I'm gonna need to do is go here and set my um, DNS to point to. Oh my goodness! Come on, man! I just changed it to Aperture Options. There we go. Just need to set my DNS server to the Samba domain controller, which is 10.0.0.60. So the reason they couldn't find it is because my computer has no idea what ad.testcompany.com actually is, but it's going to be able to find out. So now, if I ping samba.ad.testcompany.com, look at that, 10.0.0.60. Okay, so now if I go to System and I go to, no, that's not going to work. If I go to Join, Connect to Work, just a moment. This is a local Active Directory domain, and it's ad.testcompany.com. Next. There we go. So I would just do administrator. Whoa, wow. And then the password, I don't know. I don't actually want to join this right now. I don't want this computer joining this thing, but the problem I believe I'm going to have is I can't, I don't have a Windows virtual machine to install the RSAT toolkit on in order to actually connect to it and show you how the RSAT toolkit works. But maybe that will be a video, a different video. That way I can set up a separate Windows virtual machine so that I can join that virtual machine to the Active Directory domain. Plus, this video has probably gone on for, who knows, at this point, probably hours. So that is pretty much it. You can see it's pretty straightforward. If any of you know about the RSAT toolkit and how that works, basically at this point you would be ready to use that administrator account and administrator password that you set up, and you could join the computer to it. Let's just see what happens here. I don't know. I think you have to have the computer joined to the domain in order to administer the okay, where did that download go? Hello. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, I double clicked it 2 times. I accept. We'll just see how far we can get with this. At least, so to get this, you just go to Google and type in, Windows 10. If you're running Windows 10, you just do Windows 10 RSAT Toolkit and download the version for the version of Windows that you're running. In my case, it's 1803, so that's what I downloaded, 64-bit. And as you can see, all of this is just running as a virtual machine in VirtualBox. So as soon as I shut this virtual machine down, my Active Directory domain will also disappear, which is why I don't really want to tie it into this computer, just because I don't know, this thing will probably be deleted at some point. So yeah, it's installing, and it's going to go for a little while, I assume. And I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and do, let's just Let's just shut this down. Oh. I shut the Linux server down, and I will show you how now with that shut down, if I try to ping google.com, I can't. Why? Because the server that I just shut down was also acting as the DNS server that I pointed my computer to. So to get that back, to get my internet working again, I need to come back over here and go to Windows 10. Need to come over here and change my DNS server back to 10.0.0.1. All right, so it's working then. All right, and so to explain sort of the DNS server that is existing now with Samba whenever it's actually powered on and running, and pointing it to itself, and pointing my computer to Samba, and then the DNS forwarder from Samba, how that's actually working and why we put 10.0.0.1 in as the forwarder in Samba is because Samba is basically going to handle anything for ad.testcompany.com. All right, so anything that needs to be resolved within ad.testcompany.com is going to be handled by Samba and its internal DNS server. Anything outside of that zone, it has no idea. And when it basically realizes that it doesn't have any idea what this is, it will forward that request on to the next server, and that's basically the forwarder IP. So our forwarder IP of 10.0.0.1 is just my my router on the local area network. So it's basically, we're taking this local host here, pointing it to Samba. Samba says, I don't know what google.com is. I'm forwarding it on to the next guy. All right, and then the next guy is my router. So and I have to restart in order to finish this install. So I think this would be a really good time to stop this video. That's probably like nothing short of 7 hours at this point. So I've powered off the Samba server, and well, let's just see real quick if Samba starts up automatically. Be interested to see if it does or not. All right. So I'm actually going to change. I know it's not this one, but it always works when I go here and then do this. So there we go. If I go back to IPv4, close, and we're just at the login, so I have not changed anything. Obviously, I'll be able to ping 10.0.60. That's fine. Now, can I ping google.com? Yes, I can. So the fact that I can ping google.com through the domain controller, the Linux domain controller, makes me believe that everything came back up the way it was supposed to. Especially if I can ping ad.testcompany.com. Yeah, it's working. But to verify that, we will log in as test. SMBD. There it is. All right. So everything is working perfectly fine. And as you see, like the first time you do this, like in a long time, or the first time ever, it's kind of confusing, and there are things that take a lot of time when you can't find the krb5.conf file, and you're like, where is that? I know it's somewhere. Then you end up Googling, and then you kind of go down a rabbit hole. and maybe spend 10, 15 minutes on it. That was a relatively uh, easy thing to find and resolve. Sometimes you get into situations where it's a fairly complex issue and the answer isn't exactly obvious or apparent like it was with everything that I ran into. Um, one of the errors being, oh, you need to remove the smb.conf file because it's already there, basically, is what it told me. And then another one, oh, if you want to run KInit, you need to actually install it. SMB client is not installed. Those are just typical things that are like not a big deal to fix, easy to get going, easy to get past. Um, my solution to finding the krb5.conf was basically just deleting smb.conf and running the command again because I knew that it told me where that file was. I didn't remember where it was, and I couldn't scroll up to see where it actually put it. So that was the you know solution that I ended up doing, just because I was Googling and I couldn't really find what I needed to find, and that seems almost like some sort of custom location that isn't necessarily going to be where the krb5.conf is for everyone. So anyway, that seems like a good place to stop this video. I will definitely, now that we've gotten this far, I will definitely create another video once I get a Windows 10 VM running in VirtualBox, and I'll join that to this Samba Active Directory domain that we've just created. It's a brand new clean install, as you just saw, and I won't do anything. I won't do anything to the domain. So if you are following along and you want to know how to do this, then you'll actually be able to see everything that I'm doing. So thanks for watching.